1, 2. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the CrossFit 310 QuickPod. These are short conversations inside of the CrossFit 310 office with awesome people who run around inside of CrossFit 310. I have my very good, awesome friend, Beth Drayer, who this is going to be so fun to have a QuickPod conversation with you because we'll just be letting people, this is what we do every day in class.
Because our conversations are quick usually.
Yep. If we, after class, if we get 15 minutes, we're usually doing something like this. Yep. Beth Drayer, Movement Nutrition.
Yep. Good job.
Yes.
Awesome.
Thank you.
That's me.
We are going to have a conversation today about movement. That's exactly right. The question or conversation or ping pong back and forth is, what movement patterns do we think are valuable for every human? And this will be, we'll just start talking about movement patterns. We can just go down the list. You don't have to organize them. We'll just start talking about things we think that everyone should be able to do. And actually, we prefaced it a little bit this morning. You kind of have a sentence that you were like, oh, well.
If God gave you that movement, you should be able to own that movement.
If God gave you that movement, you should be able to own that movement. Elaborate. For sure. We should probably just bring the world in, all 7 people who will watch this. But
I think that's a good idea.
It does sound like a good idea.
It does sound like a good idea.
We decided that we thought we might try this entire QuickPod in the tone of the characters from Saturday Night Live that do the NPR tone.
No, I can't handle it.
Oh my gosh.
I don't think I'd last.
I think you could do it.
You think so?
I do.
We can try.
Look, we're already in.
Okay. Well, I think, like I said, if you were...
I take it back. But we'll just have to bring it back.
For sure. I feel like if you were given a movement or an ability to do a movement, you should be able to do that movement. You don't necessarily have to do it weighted. So an example that we were talking about earlier was neck extension, because I was talking to somebody and I said, can you move your head back? And they said, well, I thought I'm not supposed to do that. Well, why are you not supposed to do that? Like, don't you want to see the stars? Don't you want to look up? Extension helps with head extension, helps with back extension and all that other stuff. So it's an important pattern and something that was given to us. So I don't think you should limit yourself from doing it.
So can you give some context to that? Because like if you're out there walking around in the world, maybe you might not. No, what I mean is like, why would somebody even say... What is neck extension? Neck extension, flexion and extension of the neck. So
flexion is bring your chin to your chest. Extension, chin to the ceiling, sky, whatever you want to say. But it helps you orient yourself and where you are in space, which is one of the big things that you're here to do.
Right.
And
something that we commonly hear inside of training world, like if people are doing neck stretches and stuff, or if you're warming up, it's usually they'll tell you to lean right, lean left, and maybe round through here, but never do the backwards rounding.
And I feel like, why wouldn't you go in that direction? Because it's one of the directions that we have.
Right.
So, an example of why you wouldn't or couldn't is only, in my mind, is if you've already injured it or you have an injury that you're trying to protect.
Right.
But otherwise, I'm not saying load it with 50 pounds.
Right.
I'm saying look up and look at the birds in the sky.
Right. And I think just because I've been around you some, this is also something that people just don't do a lot. Like, people aren't routinely going like this with their neck.
Everybody routinely is here right now.
Yeah.
So my argument is, why wouldn't you go back? Because you're doing this all the time. You need to balance it, right?
Right. And it's something inside of like our like people that we follow inside of here. I'm going to bring up Max Shank like 30 times. Yeah, every time. He happens to speak a language that I identify with.
And
yes.
I understand.
So, but yeah, we are also inside of, I think Kelly Starrett, talks like this
For sure.
as well. Like we're just looking at like, what is movement capacity about the neck? And this is a viable range of motion for the neck. The body has made room for that. And yet we are very rarely taking our neck and head through ranges of motion. And we should be.
We should be.
Right.
If you're driving a
Especially-
car,
yeah.
you need to look behind you.
Yep.
Like, so why would you not turn your head all the way?
Do you know where this has, like in this instant that you brought this up, the place that I think about that is I have been, as you know, riding my bike to work.
Right.
And
As I've been riding my bike to the gym.
yes, that's right. Same place.
Yes.
So just on the streets, I would like frequently need to look behind and just make sure, hey, who's behind me as I'm trying to go around cars and not get
killed.
smashed.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But when I first started riding my bike, turning and looking around, it was difficult. I was like, this is not easy for me to turn around. I've got my backpack. I got to look at
Yeah.
But it's better.
And as you do it,
That's
you gain.
exactly right.
It's the use it or lose it principle, right?
That's
That's
exactly what we're talking about.
This is exactly what we're talking about.
The use it or lose it principle.
About everything.
This is why we are friends. I think that is, if you want to really narrow down what I want to do with humans in life, I think it's that.
You got to use it.
This gym, as awesome as all the great heavy weights, higher level gymnastic stuff there's going on, walking on your hands and
For sure.
everything, but as simple as
Pick something up.
Put
your hand over your head.
Get up and down off the ground.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
a big one.
Yeah,
That's
where,
a big one.
That's
I
where
love that
I was gonna
one.
start today. That's on my. That's like
where we're
biggest
starting?
on my list. Yeah.
Okay, let's start.
Okay, we'll start on the list. The use it or lose it principle, to me, for sure. I think it kind of culminates inside of that. If you are not able to get down onto the ground and get up off the ground, that is
A problem.
a problem. That is great. I was going to say it's a loss, but it's more than a loss. It's a problem.
It's a
That's
problem.
exactly right. In fact, it is a metric of health.
For sure.
And the older that you get, it's a more significant metric of health.
There is one thing that I've required my parents to do every day. My parents are both 71. I said, you need to get up and down off the ground 10 times a day. I don't care how you do it. I don't care when you do it. I don't care if you do it one at a time. You need to do it because it's going to help you. God forbid if you fall, that you will be able to get back up.
Yeah.
And I want you to be safe. And I want you to be comfortable being down on the ground and then being up again. Like that's because like I sit on the floor all the time because I'm that person.
Yeah.
But that's not everybody. That's not most people. So getting up and down out of a chair, like Hinge would be like a pattern as well.
Absolutely.
So, if you got to go potty.
Yep. Can you get up and down? So this is, and we can keep extrapolating on this idea. And this is, again,
Where we get into trouble?
the one who shall not be named, Max Shank. Anyway, I really like that he quantifies that further, right? It's like what we do inside of class. We've got this workout and we can scale it down infinitely, but we also can scale it up infinitely. And getting up and down off the ground, can you get up and down without using your hands? Can you be in a 90-90 position?
For sure.
And twist
And
out
twist
of
out.
that, up and down. And
Twisting is a huge thing that is not programmed well into life
oh man,
at this point.
Yeah, well, shoot. I mean, if raising your hand over your head with an object isn't programmed into life, neither
Then-
is twisting
Right.
off of your ankles and knees and stuff. but these are the edges, and why me and you are so passionate about it is this is like, again, it's all going to fall into the use it or lose it principle, which we've got our title of our QuickPod. And we might have to have multiple parts because it's just too important.
Much. Yeah.
There's too much and it's too important. But, people will tear perfectly good tissues that just haven't had any rotation inside of them anywhere.
Right.
And it's just that they can apply a certain amount of force, but there hasn't been any practice of rotation. And
then you get in trouble.
Yeah, you do. You lose it. And I try to explain that the body and how it's connected and blood flow and the pump system inside of here. It's like having a car that sits out in California heat. You know what I mean? Like if the tires sit, they're going to
start cracking.
That's right.
They're going to start.
That's right.
Yeah.
They need to be used to stay vital. If they just sit still, they get cracked in the tissues of the.
Or you could go the opposite. The people in Wisconsin whose car sits there underneath a pile of snow.
Yeah.
You need to turn the engine on, make sure it's going to turn on, right? Water pipes, same type of idea.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you don't use it, it just freezes.
It's like this universal law, but it's got to be applied to the body, too.
And people always look outside, right? They never look inside.
We call
and how it applies to them.
Yeah, we call this a machine, but I mean, it really is. Like, there's a pump system. There's like our
brilliant.
Understanding of machinery can absolutely be traced straight into the body.
So many ways.
Yeah. Okay, getting up and down. I started off with getting up and down.
Yeah.
What is something for you?
As far as getting up and down?
No.
Oh,
what's on your list?
Pattern? Hinging is probably my next one, or probably a hinge.
Okay.
Because I feel like
for somebody who might be listening that wouldn't get that right away, could we describe that?
Basically, it's how you get up and down off your chair, or the potty, which is a discussion that we've had in the past as well.
We're like, what are we going to talk about today? I don't think it's going to be a problem. We're going to find something because we spent 30 minutes talking about getting up and down off the toilet before, and we loved it. We had to stop ourselves short.
That was a very entertaining conversation.
We invented something together.
We did.
Kind of.
It was sort of already invented, but I feel like we have improvements that would benefit a lot of people.
Stay tuned.
But yeah, I think hinging, so like reaching your butt back, setting yourself down on an object, or picking something up in that position as well. Like we do a lot in here, is we use hinging for picking things up, but it's also a way of lowering down. So our example of the potty is you need to be able to get up and down off the bathroom.
Yeah. So I typically, now do you put squat inside of the hinge? Is squat a subset of hinge for you?
I was debating about it as you were going to ask me, and I was like, I feel like squat is actually a different pattern, because of the mechanics of it. Because in a squat, you're going to drop straight down. Whereas a hinge, and you have full flexion of your hips and your knees, whereas in a hinge, there's minimal flexion of your knees, but more flexion in your hips than your comparatively.
I understand what you're saying. I definitely think that we could just spend time talking about, because there's a hinge in the squat for sure.
For sure.
Your hips have to hinge.
For sure.
So do your knees. But yeah, so inside of our place, when we talk about universal patterns, the squat is its own universal pattern,
right.
And the hip hinge is another one. So usually picking stuff up is when I talk about hinging. If I were to talk about getting up and down off of couch or chair, I bend that towards
squatting.
Yeah, but
interesting.
But I think and I think probably because of the control that you have to have while going down to that seated thing,
which is also a conversation that we've had, was what muscle group are you using as you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you said hip hinge. Let's keep it. We
can group them today.
I kind of like. I mean, that hip hinge, that squat in this conversation. We'll just go to squat next. Okay, that's another important thing that we probably both believe.
And if you're in China, you need that one to
that is
go potty.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. I was definitely going to go there for sure. And they have a better squat than us because they do spend more time.
Yeah, because they don't have toilets like we do.
Yeah, I went to the Philippines and it was a little crazy.
It's a different world.
Yeah.
Yep. Not what we're used to.
Okay, so squat, hinge for getting up and down off of chairs, toilets, picking stuff up, which you'll be doing for the rest of your life, no matter what. Let's get to like something else. So another one for me is lunging. Okay. I think that every human needs to be able to get up and down with a lunge. So a single leg controlled descent.
For sure.
Because you might not be able to leverage both feet and legs to get you up and down, and to be able to get into a different position or let yourself down,
right? And be comfortable with that single-sidedness, because I think people do it unconsciously sometimes, right? Like that's their default pattern for some people, because their body doesn't allow them the full motion, so they use their compensation. That's a pattern that they would end up using as well. Not to say that it's not a bad pattern, that you need to own it, because it is. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I would agree with that. I like that one.
What else?
I was trying to think upper body, and I just think it's funny, like just a general arm circle.
Yeah.
I feel like it has been diminished in the past few years, but like I remember doing that as warm up in like elementary school, right? Nobody does that, but like how good does it feel just to like swing your arm around?
Yeah.
And again, it's another use it or lose it thing.
Totally. So it's in our on ramp. Mm-hmm. We have 3 private sessions that you have before you come in here, and there's all these like. It's not everything, but that's one of the primary ones. It's just called shoulder rolls, and there's 90 circles that you do inside of this. There's 60 actual arm circles that you do, and then some scapular stuff inside. Shoulder rolls. But
in people's mind, you're going to say 90. That's a lot. I'm like, that takes about 30 seconds, people. To get through all of
them. Yeah. But I used to do that before I was in CrossFit, and to the thing that you were saying, and again, why we have the exact same brain.
Which is frightening a little bit.
Yeah. It's great. Yeah. But it might be one of the most valuable things that I've ever taught anybody. And I'm not sure, even though I say it a lot, I'm not sure my clients would leave. Like my personal training clients that I did, up in Hollywood, I'm not sure that they're somewhere going, shoulder rolls. Kris taught me that. You know what I mean?
Right on.
Yeah, I don't think that's what they're drawing on, but I'd love them to know how important that is. It's just crucial, to be able to go through a range of motion, to have some centrifugal force inside of there, and not like crazy silly helicopter arms.
No.
But
it's actually interesting because I took a course not too long ago, and it discussed some of that, and it talks about end range motion and then the different speeds about doing end range motion, because usually you're depending on what you're doing, but like for shoulder, like it's not like a slow motion movement that you're getting injured in. It's a fast one. Yeah. So the faster you can do it, your body feels safe doing it. So the faster you can get your body to practice it, the safer it feels doing it.
And this is Z Health, right?
That was part of the Z Health class, yes.
Z Health, which has been around so long, and I admire it so much. Awesome.
Yeah.
What else? I think, so just arm circles, that's a good one. Arm circles is a good one. The ability to press something overhead, be able to straighten and lock out is important to me, like stability throughout the shoulder. That's it. That's an important one for me. I feel like that's like, no, because you just don't do that anywhere unless somebody asks you to. You can have momentary stuff, but it's usually not all the way up. It usually takes a gym environment to make somebody go all the way up and stabilize like that. But you need it. And people who have lost it are really the people who understand.
For sure.
Oh, I can't balance something overhead. Like, this is a moment of rest. I still am holding something, but as soon as I move off of the axis, of that midline axis, then all of a sudden it's work. It's work in a different way.
Which is why I didn't do overhead lifts for so long, because I had a shoulder injury a long time ago, and I didn't really take care of it the way I should have. I'm like, it's my left arm. I don't need that one. I don't use that one. And I think that's unfortunately the mentality of a lot of people. Yeah. So when I was doing before here overhead squats, I was like, well, this feels terrible. Like, I'm going to put those over there and not visit them. Yeah. I visit them more often than I did before. You do. But I feel much better now, and I've done a lot. I feel like I've built up the stability where I feel safer on my shoulder that I can do that now. Yeah. But I still don't like putting a bunch of weight on it just for that reason. Yeah. Yeah.
You touched on another one that is just a passion of mine, and it is also a great weakness of mine, or it used to be a great weak. I just couldn't do it, but I would love to have everybody that I know be able to do an overhead squat in their 70s.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with load.
Right.
In fact, it's more impressive if you can do an overhead squat with a PVC or a dowel, and it looks straight up and down.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of us, myself included, I need some load to put me into the good position, because my joints don't move about as free as they should. But that overhead squat is a magic bullet for me, because it demonstrates if it's right, it's right. And that's like Gray Cook's been doing this forever, right? He uses it as a metric of, let's find out what's wrong with you if you can't do this well.
Right.
And so your shoulders, your ankles, your knees, your midline.
For sure.
Yeah.
And if you're going to go there, like, talk about like the tightness of lats and external obliques and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And so that deals with your rotation as well. So thoracic rotation is probably a big one for me as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's one. That's where I figured we would also
we'd end up going.
But we have to, because all of these things, when you can't do these things,
they limit so many other things.
Yeah, you lose things. And here's the big thing. This is why the reason why the use it or lose it principle is so important is when you lose it is when you feel old.
Oh, for sure.
That is when people feel old.
Yeah.
When they cannot do something that they used to be able to do.
You hear them all the time. I used to be able to do XYZ. When I was back in, I could do XYZ. But you're not there anymore. And what have you done between now and then to either keep it or lose it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have a young kid coming in who used to pound the volleyball or something like that. He's like, oh, I can't do that anymore. I'm
like
so
20.
old. Yeah, I'm 20. I'm 27. I'm so old. It hurts. And I'm like, no, you just have impingement. You're not old.
Yeah.
You just didn't. It's out of balance.
Yeah.
We haven't. You've got an issue. But that is where the fountain of youth is for me too, because inside of these things, when you give somebody mobility that they did not have before, all of a sudden they might be able to get to new strength that they did not have before, a bigger capacity. A more efficient. And if you get somebody feeling more efficient in a workout, they feel like they're in better shape, and that's not necessarily true.
Right.
Your capacity could increase with the exact same amount of cardiovascular threshold. It's just you're more efficient now. Yeah. So it is something that is so important to me as a coach. I know that this is why we're having this talk, because
we're passionate about.
We love to give people these things, and then that's when you hear stuff like, I haven't done that since high school,
right?
Or I haven't done that, I haven't felt this way, or I never could do that, which is a blast.
Like, I want to see the world, and I think everybody should be able to do that, right? And being able to give them the ability or the empowerment to feel like they have the ability to do that, that's what I want to give people.
Do you mean, elaborate on that?
Just like, I haven't done that in so long. Like I like just going for a walk, so you can go to like another country and walk around the city and see, but they haven't walked more than a mile.
Right. Yeah. Go for a hike to see the top of a mountain, but yeah, I got a guy who is right now, Jerry?
Yeah.
Jerry,
that's right.
Yeah.
He's doing Kilimanjaro, right?
I don't know which one he's doing.
He's like in South Africa,
He's doing something.
He's crazy. It's awesome.
But yeah.
So good.
Jerry's such a great story, right? Like he came here, and it's so that he's retired, and he came here so that he could do more in his retirement, and he's doing it.
That's
so
awesome,
great. Yeah.
right?
All right. We have to land this plane.
Fair.
Our QuickPod turned a little longer than quick, as we
Standard.
thought it might.
It's pretty
I need a
standard.
big buzzer. This is Beth Drayer from Beth Drayer Movement Nutrition.
Always good times.
This is the QuickPod. Thanks, sis.
Thank
Fun
you.
to talk.
You too.
So good.
So good. That
I'm
was
really-
awesome. I
I'm
think
really
we
glad did this.
nailed that one.
I think so.
Yeah.
My enthusiasm is scaring me right now.
It's overpowering, really.